Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Weighing In. I'm David Mirikitani. This is Mark Ostrander. Grant Turner is in Oslo. We are recording this on Monday at 1:30 p.m. right after the 92 kilogram final match. And we are going to mention quickly, first of all, we're brought to you by USA Wrestling, the national governing body for wrestling in the United States, and by Nike Wrestling. Go to athleteps.com for all of your Nike and USA Wrestling branded gear. First time, I almost missed that, Mark. I almost missed it. How you been, man? You doing good?
Good. Watched a lot of wrestling the last few days, and it's nice the way Flow does it. That you know they got the brackets, and if you don't want to get up at 3:30 in the morning to start watching wrestling, I happen to be up at 3:30 in the morning every day, so I got to watch it, first thing. So that was kind of nice.
Yep. So yeah, if people can click on the brackets and watch the matches, either live or go back and watch them, which people got different schedules. Not everybody can be camped out in front of the laptop. So let's start with the women. Jenna Burkett is in the repechage. Kayla Miracle is in the finals. That's all we're going to say about that, because next week is all going to be women's and Greco-Roman. But we don't want in any way to not acknowledge where they are. Kayla Miracle going for a gold medal, and Jenna's still in the hunt for the bronze. She's got to win two, not one, but she's still in the hunt for her first world championships. I think it's a great run, and she's up 2 kilos doing that. Okay, so let's summarize just what's happened so far for America. Right. Okay, 57 kilos, Thomas Gilman wins gold. 61 kilos, Dayton Fix wins silver. 65 kilos, Yanni Diakomahalis goes 1-1 and DNPs. 70 kilos, James Green makes it to the quarterfinals, loses, doesn't get pulled through, so he DNPs. 74 kilos, Kyle Dake, gold. 79 kilos, Jordan Burroughs, gold. 86 kilos, David Taylor, silver. 92 kilos, Jaden Cox, third. 97 kilos, Kyle Snyder in the finals tomorrow. And 125 kilos, Nick Wadowski takes fifth. Let's talk about team scores first, and then let's just go through the matches, basically the weight classes in order. I think that's probably the easy way to do it. So as of this moment, Russia has 163 points, United States has 160, and Iran has 151. Okay, so if we share screen here, so these are the scores. Now, if you go to the brackets, this is the 90, let's go to 70 kilos first, okay? So 70 kilos on the front side is Kazakhstan and Poland, so it doesn't affect the team race. On the back side, Iran is in the repechage too, so they can win a match and then technically win another match, so they could score 10 more points. They could get all the way to third, okay? Let's back up a minute and tell people this. First place is 25 points. Second place is 20. Third place is 13. There is no fourth place. Okay. There's 2 third place guys. Okay. Fifth place is 10. There's no sixth place guy. Okay. And we know that 8th is worth 6th. So 7th has to be worth 8. And then we haven't figured out what 9 and 10th is. And I apologize, we don't know this. We literally went on the UWW website and they don't literally post how team scores are calculated. But this also works the way it does in the NCAA tournament, where if you win the quarterfinals, you get 1 for advancing, you get whatever bonus, and you get 6 for the 6th place for being guaranteed 6th place. So for example, right now, Kyle Snyder is guaranteed 2nd place points. Sajalayev is guaranteed 2nd place points. One of them will score 5 more points, the difference between 20 and 25. I know you understand all this, Mark. This is really more of an audience thing. So Iran can score up to 10 more points here. Obviously, the Russian Wrestling Federation wrestler is sitting in the 3rd place bout, so he could score 5 more. And USA can score no more at this weight class, okay? We go to 97. I think this is fairly obvious, but on the front side, it's Sajalayev against Snyder. So one of those guys, as we just said, will score 5 more. And on the back side, the Iranian has a chance to move from 5th to 3rd. Right now, he's got 5th place points. So if America maxes out, they could get to 165. if Russia maxes out, they could get to 173. And if Iran maxes out, they could get to 166. So basically, Russia's got to lose everything. But the problem with that is if they lose, if we go back and look at this, what we want to have happen in the United States is we want the Iranian to lose to the Sri Lanka Armenian winner, and then for that person to beat the Russian for third, because that would mean neither one of those countries would score any more points. So then we'd be exactly the same. Then it really wouldn't matter what Iran did at 97, because if Snyder beat Sajalayev, the United States would win the world championships.
Correct.
So I'm a math dork. You worked out some of this with me yesterday while we were counting our fantasy football points at the same time. I think it's relatively realistic that the United States can take second. It's just Iran could score 15 more points, and they need 9 to catch us if Snyder loses.
Yes.
So first, second, and third are technically still on the table. Okay. Let's just start with Gilman. Okay. I'm going to start by saying I'm super biased, having had Gilman and Date Fix on the podcast in the last 5 weeks. I literally almost cried watching Gilman when he won and then on the podium. But I felt like he had the best guy in the bracket right out of the chute with the Russian, and cradled him up and pinned him, then goes 11-1, then he goes 15-5, and then he beat the Iranian 5-3. I'll let you sort of break down what you think of his tournament.
Well, I'm kind of biased because he wrestled at the University of Iowa, and he's from Council Bluffs, Iowa. And to see him win a world title when he never has won a world title before, never won an NCAA title. This was a huge thing for Thomas. Going to Penn State has changed, I think, the way he thinks during a match, which has made a big difference. You see him wrestling a little bit different than he did when he wrestled at Iowa. Still very physical, still gets after it, but picks his spots, I think, a little bit better. We were always, and I know he's had injuries and he couldn't shoot and he was still out there competing, but I couldn't be more happy for Thomas. I'm not sure the Russian that he wrestled in the first round was the second best guy in the tournament, because he lost for the bronze to the kid from Germany that Thomas beat 15-5, but it was really a pretty good match early on. I think it was like 5-5 after the first period.
Finished 6-4, so it must have been 4-4. But yeah.
So anyway, I think Tom, this is something he's been working for a long time, and I think it's going to fuel him for the next few years. I think he'll be around for the next quad, which if he wouldn't have done this or wouldn't have placed at the Olympics, I'm not sure if he would have. So that's great for the United States. There's some good competition in the United States that will be coming up challenging him, as we both know. But what a performance. I couldn't be more proud of him.
Yeah, I think you're a coach. I'm a coach. The relationship between him and Cody Sanderson seems pretty special. And I think this is probably as good a time as any to point out, you don't have to have been a world or national champion to be a world level coach. Cody Sanderson was an outstanding wrestler. He was, I think it's fair to say, better than you and better than me. But he was a national runner up, lost in overtime. But his technical side of things, his ability to break things down, and then his ability to work with these guys and get them in the right mindset, and they absolutely believe in him. Cale himself will say that Cody's a better coach. I don't know how much of that is self-deprecating and how much of that is real, but Cody's a great coach. So congrats to Gilman. And he now sits in the finals of the World Team Trials in 2022. You and I had a philosophical conversation about this, and I think I look at this a little differently than you do, and we'll get into it hopefully at the end. But he sits now, he is at worst our world alternate for 2022. Okay. Yep. Which is an interesting weight because Vito's there, Soriano's there, Spencer Lee will probably be there, and Fix is going to be there. So to just let all those guys sort it out and get the winner, Tomasello's there, like that's huge. Okay.
But David, I'm not sure they're going to be there for the Worlds. I think Dayton will stay where he's at because I think he found out he's very successful there. He doesn't have to cut a lot of weight. I'm not sure. I think he'll go down for the quad in 24, but I think maybe the next year or so, a lot of these kids are going to stay where they're at because they know they got a shot at winning a world medal at, the non-Olympic weights.
I would tell you this, I would bet my bottom dollar the Dayton Fix is at 2023 is at 57 kilos.
2023. I would agree with you in 2023. 2022, I think
2022 is a coin flip. Okay. But let's explain why we agree on that. In 2023, if you make the team and you medal, you're now in the Olympic trial finals in 24. Yep. And that's what all these guys, it's probably blasphemous that we're already talking about 2024. We've given these guys 14 minutes to celebrate their gold medals. But I mean, right? Like that's what we do. So anyway, all right. So 61. All right. So Dayton Fix. Let's find his path here. So he goes 11-0 against the Bulgarian, 11-0, 10-0 against the French, 20-0 against the Indian. Then he beats the Armenian, 10-0. Then he loses to Magomedov from the Russian Wrestling Federation, 4-1. Gave up the only takedown, got put on the shot clock twice. Kind of your typical international match where some of these guys have just been doing it a little bit longer, sort of kind of old guyed him a little bit. And, Dayton got in on a good shot and the guy passed the shoulder, which is pretty old school technique, but he passed that shoulder. And then he went to like that modified cradle thing where you put your elbow on the guy's spine and elevate the leg, and it's tough to get out of. I thought Dayton looked phenomenal going into the finals. We had him on the podcast. We talked about how good he looked at the US Open. You and Grant and I talked about that. I guess maybe break down your summary of Dayton, both finals and then sort of everything else before that, because I think there's a clear line of demarcation, right?
Yeah, and I think Dayton, we saw what everybody kind of expected Dayton to be able to do a few years ago because he is so talented and he has been on the big stage. He had a great week. He really did. Didn't wrestle his best in the finals, but I think his competition stopped him from doing that. So he wasn't able to open up the way he wanted to probably open up, because I think if they just go after each other, problem is Dayton wants to go after somebody. This guy is so good defensively. He gets in positions, and then, Dayton is so good at defensively when you shoot on him. This guy never really shot on him, David. And so Dayton had to go after him. And when he did that, this guy's just as good, if not a little bit better defensively, and was able to score points off it. So the only thing that scares me with Dayton is I've seen him twice in the NCAAs in the finals, hasn't wrestled his best. And then I saw him in the finals of the world where he was wrestling his best and then didn't wrestle his best. So there's something there that he has to get over, not thinking about where he's at that time, just to go out and wrestle. And that's hard to teach an athlete to do. It really is.
I think your interpretation is certainly valid. I obviously none of us know if it's right or wrong. Like maybe it's just like Suriano puts a lot of guys in 1-point matches, which is one of those two. RBY is such a crazy style. I mean, we had Gilman on the podcast and he talks about half the time he's shooting an RBY. RBY is already 80% behind him while he's still hitting his knee. So, I look at it, that's maybe a little glass half empty. I look at it as a glass half full, where Dayton really pulled the trigger a lot at the trials, even in the finals with Tomasello, like crazy against Seth Gross. And then really pulled the trigger for 3 or 4 matches here, before the finals. And this is like his 9th world team that this kid has made, man. He's like 22 years old. Yeah. So listen, this is totally self-serving, but I really encourage people to go back and watch the podcast with Dayton and with Gilman. They were both off the charts good, just in terms of being great guests. So, okay, 65, the curse for US continues.
Oh boy.
Yanni beats Real Budo 10-0. Then he loses to the Armenian 5-1. And that guy loses to the Mongolian 2-1. To be fair, then the Mongolian makes it, let's see. No, he lost in the semis. I just watched him wrestle for third. He just beat somebody 10-0. I mean, this is Yanni's first trip. You know, he's in the middle of the college season. It looks like he'll probably wrestle 49. So he was pulling down, you know, a little bit from probably where he was walking at. You know, if you watch him on social, he was super excited. I think we become so accustomed to like the Snyders and the JBs and those guys of the world coming right out of high school. I'm sorry, right out of college and medaling. Like somebody pointed out about Gilman, it was 4 years after he graduated from college to win a world title. And he and Dan Gable, I think, are the only two Iowa-born world champions, which is kind of crazy considering how many people have come through Iowa. So,
Well, no, that is not true.
okay.
Just so we know, because you got to give Brands a world championship.
Oh, so
I know
yeah.
Terry won one.
No, you're right. I must have
Tom won the
misread Kyle.
Olympics.
No, you're right. Kyle Klingman said, I think it was just maybe saying Gable in 71 and Gilman in 21. So that's my fault. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So 70 kilos. I don't think there's a ton to say here. I mean, Green, when you and I talked about it, I'm like, it looks like he had a great draw to the quarters, which was exactly right. He goes 10-0, 10-0. Then he loses to by Ramoff 6-5. And then he lost to Gadziev 4-2. Most of us are familiar with Gadziev because he's the one that knocked Jordan Oliver out of the last chance tournament to make the Olympics. So even if you weren't familiar with him, you were then. He's a Russian wrestling for Poland. So Green's a veteran. You know, these two weights just, we didn't score enough points here, but I'm sure he'll be back. Go to 74. Dake is the 1 seed. He goes 11-0, 5-0, 9-1, 7-3. I'll let you go first. What'd you think about Dake?
It was so nice to see him win. It was like getting lifting a building off his shoulders because he was so disappointed what happened at the Olympics. I don't think he wrestled his best. I think he wrestled a little bit tight, but in the second period, he was able to open up and kind of have his way in that match. I think he's a lot like some of our other guys that are so talented. There's times where, they put themselves in, like the Olympics where Dake got into the match where he was doing his things that he's always done and kept getting caught in bad positions. So I think he kind of changed a little bit. He made a real conscious effort not to put himself in certain positions, even though he's really good at those positions normally. But yeah, it was so nice to see him win, but I felt just as bad when we get to the next weight that Taylor didn't. So Dake's
there's one weight there's one weight in between them that's pretty important too.
Yeah, I know that, but I mean, I'm talking about these guys have been to the finals, and Dake's a 3-time world champion now, which is phenomenal. Obviously, the guy in the next weight has won now, what, 5?
6.
So, and we'll talk
6.
No, he's won 5, I thought.
This tied him with John Smith for 6.
Okay, all right, and 3 bronze also.
Right, but you said how many he won, so I'm just making sure he won 6.
Okay, all right. So yeah, I was impressed with Kyle all week. I think he did what he wanted to do, and he went out to tell the world that I'm here. You guys are going to have to come through me. Now, not all the guys, obviously that were at the Olympics were here. And we talked about this, David, and we'll probably talk about it a little bit toward the end. Russia sent one guy that went to the Olympics. That was on the Olympic team.
Yeah, let's hold that because I want to talk about that because it's crazy, but I want to pull up a visual of that, okay? But it's a good point. It's a really good point. Anyway, so Dake wins his first world title at an Olympic weight. This puts him in the same spot as Gilman, okay?
Yes.
Which you and me are probably differing on what Dayton Fix is going to do in 2022. I don't think we're differing on what Jordan Burroughs is going to do in 2022. maybe you're right. Maybe it's the same thing. Maybe he wins another world medal up there and then just comes down in 23. I don't know. But anyway, so now we go to 79. The King is back. We could watch him wrestle just recently here this morning or this afternoon. So he 10-0 versus the Canadian. The Kazakhstan doesn't show up to the mat, so he gets a walkover or a forfeit or a default or whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
Great match with Valiev in the quarterfinals from Russia. Then in the semifinals, he really wrestled dominantly and beat Yoshida. And then in the finals, beat the Iranian 5-1. It was close early, like shot clock point only. And then in the second period, JB got a double. And he's so hard to score on. I'll go first on this.
All right.
Burroughs reminds me of a guy that for years in baseball could throw 98, 99, 100. And now he can hit that, but he can't hit that every inning. He can't hit 100 miles per hour, get to that level every inning all the time. But now he's got a curveball. Now he's got a changeup. Now he's got a slider. Now he knows how to make you swing at pitches outside of the strike zone. I think Burroughs got a ton of credit, deservedly so, for how athletic he was early in his career. I mean, he was one of those guys you knew what was coming and it was almost impossible to stop it anyway. And now he's so smart, man. We saw him against Dieringer do some really smart things. He's almost impossible to get out of bounds. And everybody else in the world, seems like you can get them out of bounds at least occasionally. Or when he's grounded, everybody else, there's a trick to get them to their feet, not Burroughs. He knows how to stay grounded, get out of bounds, not give up the point, and not stay grounded and get go behind either. So I respect Burroughs so much as I had a chance to have him on the podcast a while back with Manning. And he's super savvy, obviously, media-wise, but his character's really, really admirable. But his mental game, his wrestling IQ is super impressive to me.
Yeah. I agree 100%. So, he is the GOAT now. So he is the Tom Brady of wrestling. And you got to say it, David, he is the greatest American wrestler to ever. He just proved it this week. So, he's tied John Smith for world titles. I think he's tied him. Is that correct?
He's tied him. I mean, I think there's three guys. There's three guys in that conversation. There's John Smith, Jordan Burroughs, and Bruce Baumgartner. Yes. And Bruce Baumgartner doesn't get enough credit, but that guy's got something like 14 world medals.
Yeah. So
I think this conversation is, I would not say, unequivocally he's the GOAT. I mean, I think if you go 6 for 6 and never lose, that's pretty impressive. And not only that, but John never DNP'd where Jordan did one time.
Yes.
I'd have to pull up Bruce Baumgartner Wikipedia, and it's maybe at the end we'll pull that up.
He was pretty good.
Yeah, right? Like third in the Eureka quad, good, yeah. So Burroughs now, so here's the thing we should go back about Dayton. If Dayton stays at 61, he's sitting in the finals of the trials at that weight. Okay. If he goes down to 57, he's in the bottom semi.
Yes.
Okay. Same scenario with Burroughs. Now, Burroughs is interesting. He's a really smart guy, right? He's talked all week how he's not cutting a lot of weight. It feels better on his body. He can probably concentrate a lot more on technique. He said himself, as you get older, you hate cutting weight. It becomes more and more tedious. I think Burroughs is probably more likely in 22 to stay up than Fix, but that's me. Okay. But none of us know. The difference with Dayton is he's got a whole college season at that weight. And both these guys, it's probably fair to say, get acclimated at 61 and 79 respectively. And Dayton's got to lose 8.8 pounds. Burroughs has to lose 11 pounds. Neither one of those, to make it happen. So it'll be super interesting. Anyway, let's go to 86.
I got one quick thing on that, David. if I was a betting man, I would bet that he goes up to 86, 2023 instead of going down. Jordan.
You think
Up to-
Burroughs is going to go up to 86 kilos?
Yes, I don't think he wants to cut weight anymore. And he's found out that he's very explosive where he's at now. And he puts on a little bit more muscle. He gives him another 3 years. I think that's probably what he might do. That's my opinion.
Well,
And
to
I
me,
could be
that's
wrong.
fascinating because, so if you remember a while back, he had this match with
Valencia
with Taylor.
and Taylor. Yeah.
Okay,
With both
so
of them.
I literally was like, I wonder if he's doing this as like a trial run, right? To see how do I do up here, right?
Yep.
I mean, Valencia doesn't cut anything to make 86. At least he wasn't. He just did some like 30-day body challenge and he looks huge now, but at the time he wasn't. Obviously, Taylor's gotten himself big enough where he's cutting, but it's definitely interesting, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's certainly something to keep on. Now, if he were to go up, same thing, he's in the bottom semi.
Yes.
Okay, just so people understand that. All right.
Well, we don't know because that's still 3 years away or another 2 years away. I think he has.
I'm saying if he were to go up next year.
Yes, next year he would be in the bottom.
Yeah, obviously, if something
We're
happened.
talking about different things. We're talking about 2024 Olympics or 2022 Worlds. I mean, there's obviously a big difference. I think he'll wait.
I think most people understand that right now the 2021 results don't impact where you are in the 2024 bracket.
Yes. Yes.
I'm making that assumption, so
Okay.
I'm having the other conversation. Okay. 86 kilos. Taylor goes by 11-0, 8-0, 6-2, then loses 6-2 to Yazdani. And he was never leading in the match. You go first. I have some thoughts here.
Yes, Donnie's really good. And we knew that going in. Him and David have had some great matches. From watching this match, David got within 2, right? 30 seconds left, took him down with the double. I thought he was going to pick him up and try to get a 4-point out of it. And he decided that he's just going to get his 2, get back to the center, take him down. Then he would have won on criteria, but he's never able to make a quality shot in the last 30 seconds to do that, which really kind of surprised me. You got to give credit to Iran for the way Yazdani wrestled.
Well, their whole team, right? They're wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, but he is the leader of that team. He is the guy, I think, that everybody looks up to. He's a national hero in Iran for all the things he's done. I mean, he has 3 losses in the last 5 years, and they're all.
I think it was longer than that, and it was all
7 years, maybe. It's been a long time, but David's the only one that's ever beaten him. And the look on his face and the joy in his, when he started screaming at the end that he finally got it done. But David's not going away. David's going to be back, and they're going to have some great battles. So
let's talk about. Let me give you my impression of the Taylor situation. Then 86 is an interesting weight class for America because like Nichols gone, he's MMA. Downey's gone. I think Downey's gone. Zahid's there. I guess Dieringer's there. Maybe Burroughs is there. That weight gets super interesting. So first of all, Taylor takes second. So he's now in the world team trials for next year. Okay, let's just get that out of the way. If you take top 3, that's where you are. So they've wrestled 4 times. The first time, Yazdani was killing him, and then he just gassed.
Yep.
Okay. So I think the second time he got tired, but he wasn't killing him. Mark, you probably need to back up a little bit. I can only see about 2/3 of your face. There you go.
Okay.
A lot better. Okay. Then the last time was the Olympic trials. Yazdani didn't get tired. I thought for sure, I lost $20 on a bet that Yazdani would take injury time during the finals of the Olympics. Because I think he's better at certain things than Taylor. He's good at getting the lead. And there really is no injury time rule in international wrestling. I'm like, well, I would just grab my ankle or something if I was him. And put some cold spray on it, catch a blow. He looked tired in this match, like anybody looks tired that's trying their best, but he didn't look like he was exhausted.
No.
So there's a couple other things here from a technical side that I actually wrote down. We as a country better figure out how to stop a left side underhook, because Iran's really good at it and the rest of the world's going to get better at it, because we don't really have anybody right now that defends it all that well. Fix a little bit, because he'll do that inside step to you on that side, but in general, we don't want to be there. And we have a lot of guys really good from space. You know, Snyder's really, you know, Snyder's style, Burrow style, Taylor style. Those guys are all sort of space guys. And so when they get in underhooks, they don't have offense there. Their job is to clear the underhook and go back to their offense. Well, anytime you have somebody whose sole purpose is to get out of something, that's problematic. So the second thing I saw was this. Yazdani has head snaps, hands like Aaron Pico. Like, it looks like he's just beating you up with concrete blocks. And I think Taylor, they'll make the adjustment where they're either he's passing the elbows, you know, and the hand collar ties quicker, or he starts doing what we call going with the snap and literally going into a shot. And that became popular about 5 years ago, but Taylor's really never run into it where guys were snapping him so heavy that he had to learn that skill. So, yeah, Yazdani, I mean, I guess the other thing is, like, somebody said, well, now this is a rivalry and the Snyder Sajalayev isn't a rivalry. It's like, well, Taylor still won 3 out of 4. Yep. And Snyder's, you know, lost 2 out of 3, but neither one of these were, well, Yazdani was the one-sided one till he won this time, you know? So,
yep.
Anyway, 92, Jaden takes bronze. I know Jaden personally, so I want to make sure I say this the right way. First of all, he goes 13-2, 10-0, 10-0. He gets into a match with the Iranian and does an unbelievable job in the quad pod, eventually gives up a takedown because they signaled it. And so he went down. I'm not sure if they had signaled it, he wouldn't have just stayed up. And then the guy gets behind him again. And you hear Kevin Jackson like yelling, "Wrestle, wrestle, don't give up anything." And he manages to free a leg and kick out. But when he kicked out, it kicked him out of bounds. Yep. So he got a caution and 1 for fleeing and ends up losing 3-3. The criteria is best, worst, last. Best was even 2-1, 2-1. Jaden had last, but the caution was the difference. So then he comes back and just mopped this guy up for third, Vlasov, like a dad wrestling his 12-year-old child. Like, it was brutal in a good way. I want to say this the right way. Jaden is so good that he takes bronze, and I got people texting me saying what he's doing wrong. Okay, like, I mean, there's something there. I think most people, the general consensus is they would like to see him in more wrestling positions. That if he's in like 5 scrambles, he's probably going to win 3 of them. And that when he's in 1, 2, 3 scrambles, you know, the analogy I always made is like, if you put me and Tiger Woods on a golf course and we hit 1 shot, there's a chance I could beat him. We play 18 holes. There's no chance I can beat him. And I'm not saying that the other chance is high. It might be 1%, whatever. But I mean, it's greater than 0. And there's 0 chance I'm beating him over 18 holes. And so the analogy is the more often you play, the better guy wins, or the better girl wins. So Jaden now, though, qualifies because he medaled. He goes into the semi, which is where he would have been at the Olympic trials, where he was in the Olympic trials.
Yep.
Okay. Your thoughts on Jaden's performance?
Besides one match, I thought he wrestled really well. I thought he got to his offense for the bronze. I thought he got to his offense pretty much the whole tournament, except for that, you know, the semis where he didn't really even take a real shot. And I don't understand that. And he does that. He's so used to winning close matches. And he's had a lot of close matches, David, where he's always been able to find a way to win it. He wasn't able to find a way to win this one. but the other guy didn't do a lot either. So I don't know what to say. I mean, he's right there. I think he needs to find a place and stay there and train and fall in love with the system, because he was at Ohio State for a short time. He went out to Pennsylvania. He was out at the Olympic Training Center. I think he needs to find a place and just really stay there and get things done. I think that's going to help him immensely. I really do.
Well, he's at the NJRTC, and I know he's, looks like he's swapping time between that and Colorado Springs. So we'll see how that impacts him. We got like 10 minutes left, so we'll have to pick it up a little bit. 97, Sajalayev Snyder. If you haven't watched the Snyder semifinal match, watch it. It's worth the price of admission, how he scores late. I think that's probably really it. I mean, Snyder looked like Snyder, everything else before that. He's got a huge task on his hand to beat Sajalayev, but it felt like he figured some things out a little bit in that second period of the Olympic finals. So, like my dad said, all you got to do is get Sajalayev tired. And I'm like, yeah, but you might give up 12 points trying to do that. So it's
that's a problem. And talk about heavy hands. He may have the heaviest hands in wrestling. And it's, I hope Kyle can do it. The ways he's been wrestling, the Russian, I just don't know if it's going to be possible. I just think he's the best guy pound for pound in the world right now. And he's just nasty. I mean, the guy can just flat out wrestle. He's never in trouble. He's never out of position unless you get him dog tired. And I don't know how you do that, because he's going to score on about everything you do. It's hard to do. Yeah.
It'll be a fascinating match to watch tomorrow. So Gwiz takes fifth. He beats Desi, who's from Oregon State. He loses to Zare, who's probably the story of the tournament, frankly. Then it looks like, Gwiz probably won't get pulled through because Zare's got to wrestle Agul. Zare beats Agul 4-0, and then he beats Petrashvili 9-2. Then unfortunately, because of that, Gwiz is where now he's got to wrestle Agul for the bronze and loses 6-4. And that match wasn't that close. Agul was up big, and Gwiz got like a takedown late. So Gwiz is perpetually in this, I'll say the 3rd through 6th range. I know there's no 4th and 6th, but like that top, normally it's Petrashvili and Agul in the finals. Now Zare's in the mix. Obviously Gable was in the mix. So, I wouldn't say Gwiz had a bad tournament. I think he just, and I wouldn't even say he had a bad match losing to Zare, because he ends up beating Agul and Petrashvili. So you have to say, he was probably the best guy. When you lose to the best guy, I think he lost to the 1st and 3rd best guy, because Petrashvili generally beats Agul, So I think if he were somehow on the other side of the bracket, maybe he takes 3rd, because it feels like he could beat the Mongolian or the Kazakhstan guy,
Yep.
So, but these seeds are so crazy, right? Like, I mean, it's just because they're so, like, if you think seeding at a junior college tournament is a clown show, you can only imagine what kind of seed the worlds are, where there's like no common opponents. How far do we go back? Do we go back 12 months, 14 months? Well, that was an exhibition match. They didn't make scratch. My guy traveled 10 hours. Your guy was eating, ice cream in his own living room. So there's so many of those kind of things going on.
Yep.
So
I'm going to say Zare is going to be the next big thing at heavyweight. He looked really, really good. And I know, if Gable was there, Gable may have won this. I'm not saying he would have. I think he had a great would have had a great opportunity to win it. But Zare, he's going to give those guys some serious problems. He can flat out wrestle. So give him credit for what he was able to accomplish.
I agree. I am doing this right now. Bruce Baumgartner, Wikipedia. Like, while we got time. Championships. Okay. This guy right here. Gold, silver, gold, bronze at 4 Olympics. That's 4 medals. Okay. Then World Championships, bronze, bronze, gold, bronze, silver, silver, gold, silver, gold. So that's 4 in the Olympics. And then 1, 2, 3, that's 9. He has 13 world medals. That doesn't count.
How many goals, David?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay. So Jordan has.
He has 5 golds, 4 silvers, 4 bronzes.
Okay.
So there's 5, 4, and 4 versus 6, 0, and 0 versus 6, 0, and 3. That's your math.
For worlds.
For worlds and Olympics.
Okay.
I mean, like, they got the goodwill
Sure.
games in here in the World Cup,
Yep.
and we're not counting Pan Ams and all that other stuff.
Well, Bruce was a teammate of mine when I wrestled at Indiana State back in the day. So
He
was
said
our
that's
head.
what made him so good. I remember that.
No, he never said that. No, I guarantee. But I saw the guy eat one of those big old tubs of ice cream once in the cafeteria. Everybody put in $20 and we bet him he couldn't eat the whole thing. And it took him 35 minutes, but he ate the whole thing. And it's a 5-gallon tub of frickin' ice cream, David. And he was able to eat the whole thing. I've never
Is that the criteria now for whether he's the GOAT or not?
Maybe. That's a lot of ice cream, but he's quite an individual, great teammate.
I think he has to be in contention. Like, I know you can't change history, right? But if he wins one more, if he's 6, 3, and 4, he's ahead of all these guys.
Yep.
So, I mean, 13 medals, man, is insane.
It is.
And like, even if Burroughs medals in 23 and 24, he's not going to have 13 medals.
No.
So, this is sort of the old argument with when Brady, when he was at 4 or 5 versus Montana, who went 4 for 4. Obviously, it's completely different because one's a team sport and one's an individual sport, right?
Sure.
So we've got a couple minutes left. I want to give a shout out to Jimmy Rollins. Jimmy, I know Jimmy. He stepped down as the coach at Lindenwood. He's going to do something that's a little less stressful. He's made this decision for health reasons, not for anything to do with his love of wrestling. Jimmy was a junior college national champion, I think an NAI national champion, coached here at Lindenwood. I believe his last match he coached the national champion, which is very rare for most of us to say.
Yep.
A dear friend of mine, I was literally responsible for bringing him to St. Louis as a college assistant coach. So, much love to Jimmy. And I'm actually going to be doing some work going forward with Lindenwood in the RTC position. Dallas Smith is the new coach there, another Missouri guy from Neosho High School. So shout out to Jimmy. People should be keeping an eye on the recruiting classes from the University of Virginia and from Oklahoma University. These are schools that have had great recruiting classes. And I point them out because these are not schools that are traditionally having top 5, top 10 type of classes. I don't, in 2 minutes, want to slight anybody, but if you go look up who these guys have signed, they each have probably 4 or 5 top 100 kids. So they're really making some hay in the recruiting class game. And then the last thing I just wanted to say, watching the world, is this. I think this has changed. Before, like when a long time ago, they're like, never take a half shot, like either go all the way in or all the way out. I see now half shots are so important in terms of getting off the edge, getting the other guy to sprawl, controlling the center of the mat, and controlling who the passivity goes to first. Like, I think the reason why that guy got fixed on the shot clock twice is because he got him to sprawl 3 times on shots that he never actually intended to shoot.
Yeah.
So I think there's a skill to half shooting or hard fakes, whatever you want to call it. Okay, maybe half shot's a bad term. Maybe you don't want you to think of kids saying anything halfway if you're a coach, but I think that's important to watch out for. I know a lot of people watch and listen to the pod and the other pod because of coaching tips. And I think if you probably talk to America, if you talk to Bill Zadek, if you talk to Steiner, you talk to KJ, you talk to Joe Russell, this is a thing that this is becoming more and more prevalent. And it's a way to get that first point. And even though theoretically they're going to put the other guy on the shot clock second, that doesn't always happen. In Jaden's match, the other guy got shot clock twice, and we're biased, but I think it was the right call. So I would encourage people when they're watching matches to keep an eye out for that. So
One last thing, shout out to Grant. The uniforms look great. The warm-ups look great at the Worlds. So congrats to Nike.
the singlets are awesome. I sent him a text like the first day I saw him, and the warm-ups are the same ones they used for when they named the Olympic team, and those gray ones are super cool. So
Yep.
yeah, shout out to GT. He's over there on Oslo time doing work. We will be back next week to talk about the second half of the World Championships. Hopefully there's so many medals we don't have anything else to talk about. If not, then we're going to start getting into college previews because that's knocking on the door. For GT and Mark, I'm David. Thank you so much for watching, listening, and sharing. Talk to you all next week.